how the National Broadcasting Commission, that is NBC, can realistically enforce accessible broadcast services for persons with disabilities by 2027.
Thank you very much, Ms. Elizabeth. First of all, I would like to bring our warm greetings from the Nigerian National Association of the Deaf, the umbrella body of all the deaf associations in Nigeria. This opportunity gives us the privilege to discuss digital inclusion and communication, something that we have been working over the year. And truly, there is no other time than now discussing way forward on how best we can address that and how best we can drive from policy to full implementation. I may remember during the last administration of His Excellency Mr. Let President Muhammadu Buhari of blessed memory, Minister of Information, Lai Muhammad, based on our advocacy on International Week for the Sign Language, made a statement that each television station, each communication centers will provide service in Nigerian Sign Language interpreting. And this has been directed to the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission to take that effect. But our challenge in Nigeria, we have good policies, good ideas, but very weak implementation. But to some extent, some TV stations like NTA, like Channels TV, and very few others have been trying to comply with the directive of the Honorable Minister at the National Broadcasting Commission, who provides interpreting services at their TV station. So also some provide captions. But we want to say that captions is not the solution. We really need proper language access for our people so that the deaf people will have full knowledge and flow with the information that is happening daily in Nigeria in the area of politics, emergency, implementation, and others. So with this, I can say, like I said earlier, it's about implementation. Let's try to see how we can shift from policy drive to full implementation drive. So this made us to see that we continue to advocate for the recognition of Nigerian Sign Language officially after the minister has given directive. That is about policy. We're trying to see that we have recognition, official recognition of Nigerian Sign Language, and we strongly partner with that ministry. It is something that we will work to see that we have this recognition fully enforced, so that we have access to digital communication through sign language. However, thank you. Let me stop here for now. Thank you very much.
So I would still like to direct the same question to Mr. Stanley. How can the National Broadcasting Commission realistically enforce accessible broadcast services for persons with disabilities by 2027?
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm very happy that today we are talking about digital communication. You know, before now, in the disability community, all attention goes to access to public structures. But I keep telling, especially for the blinds and the deaf, access to digital communication. I have even challenged the former ES in an event, trying to draw his attention to this. Persons with visual impairment, we are having challenges accessing digital communication because most communication outfits that we have in this country their websites are not
Hmm.
accessible.
Thank you.
And you know, most time we, the visual impaired, we use our devices to access these websites. So they didn't structure the websites in a way that it can be accessible for those who are visually impaired using our devices. So most time we have written to some of these organizations and they promised us that they will work on it. They will work on their website so that we can access documents, even some broadcasts or information from their websites. But just like my friend Haruna said, that in this country, our leaders or managements of these broadcasting outfits are good in making promises, but to fulfill the promises they've made is always the challenge. And recently, something happened in our organization. I called the management team of our organization and I asked them, we have been talking about accessing various websites without even looking into our own, and that made us to, you know, redesign our website, and our people can access it very well. And because you cannot be talking about other people, organizations out there to design their websites in a way that members can access them without, first of all, taking care of your own. So we have a website that is well accessible for our members. So we will keep pushing to ensure that organizations, even the organization that regulates broadcasting in Nigeria, will keep engaging them to ensure that these broadcasting outfits make their websites accessible for our members, not only even the broadcasting outfits, even the commercial banks, we are engaging them to ensure that they make their websites and even their apps accessible for our members. Let me stop here.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I love the perspective you came from, totally different from the perspective that Mr. Haruna came from, and that's what we're looking to drive in these conversations, because we want the world to see that for persons with disabilities, it is not a one size fits all. So because something is accessible to someone with a physical disability does not mean that it's accessible for someone with a sensory disability. So thank you so much for shedding light on this first question.
Mr. Haruna wants to add if you give him an opportunity.
Okay, thank you. It's fine.
It's very important. We are talking about inclusion of sign language interpretation in different TV stations. But this decision cannot be decided by the institutions or organizations themselves without involving the deaf people in decision making. Because we have different fake sign language interpreters that claim to be interpreters, but they are not. And at the same time, they usually give very fake services, interpretation services that we, the deaf people, usually get lost. And that is why we emphasize on the recognition of Nigerian Sign Language officially. That way it will give certification and accreditation of Nigerian Sign Language so that each interpreter in Nigeria will have their licenses and at different levels. We would have beginners, intermediate, and professionals who should be engaged and who should not be engaged in. So we shouldn't leave it open, because if we are leaving it open, we are abusing our linguistic identity as the deaf community. So the National Broadcasting Commission should also work with the relevant Association of Persons with Disability, like NNAD, JONAPID, you see that this kind of strictness have been taken into consideration when employing professional and skilled interpreters to give access to this kind of service, not just anybody who claims to be an interpreter and gives fake information. That is an abuse. So our linguistic identity is very critical at this level. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think it was I feel so happy that I allowed this extra contribution by you, because it's just the truth. So it gives a very straightforward answer to our question on how the National Broadcasting Commission can realistically enforce it. So for them to be able to fully enforce this, they have to work hand in hand with organizations of persons with disabilities, because they have the technical knowledge on persons with disabilities. Because what I have seen happen most times is these people just go and make their policies, they do whatever they want to do without consulting, without organizations of persons with disabilities. And this is why most times we have flaws in the implementation of some of these policies. Thank you so much, Mr. Haruna, for this contribution.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir. So to head on to one topic which has to do with barriers, like I mentioned earlier, is a very, very important topic for me. What are the barriers that persons with disabilities? Let me direct it to Mr. Haruna. Now, I know that there are specific barriers that persons who are deaf face. So what are these specific barriers that persons who are deaf face when navigating current Nigerian government websites? Because most of these government organizations, from the ministries, the departments, the agencies, they have websites. I don't think there's any of them that does not have website. However, what are the barriers that people in your community face when trying to access these websites?
Well, I would say that if the website is in a written form, it is accessible. But where it has additional voices or videos, that is a barrier for us, because deaf people will be left out. That is why it is very important for any government organization or private sectors to engage professional sign language interpreters or professional sign language services where it says, wherever it says, wherever it does, for the benefit of the deaf, because we are citizens and we demand the equal right and equal opportunity. And this is not just a privilege, it is a right. Not just on the issue of website, also on the issue of employment or provided services. I can remember there was a time that the head of service of the Federation had some verification for federal civil service, federal civil servants. I was in Federal Secretariat for some kind of engagement, but I passed by and I saw some deaf people stranded, joining the queue. Out of 200 people that were on the queue, there wasn't any interpreter. So the deaf people came to educate them that persons with disability are not supposed to follow queue. The official there says they are not aware of any law like that. So go and implement that disability law in your community, not here. So when they call their names, they cannot hear. When they call their carer, they cannot hear. And the verification is going on and they are left stranded. So this leads a lot of deaf people or a lot of persons with disabilities to lose opportunities, job opportunities. So it would be good if government organizations, private organizations have some kind of reservation, for interpreting service to interpret where persons with disabilities are involved. If it is physical events, we need to have proper interpreters so that you cannot say that public events wouldn't include persons with disabilities. At times, you organize public event, you must find one or two persons with disabilities. You wouldn't know whether they are deaf or not. So you have to provide that services. I would say federal government of Nigeria, State House Villa doesn't have, for example, access for the deaf because they always stop and they always, present their speeches without interpreting. So we need to have When the president, for example, presents speeches or any government officials that usually no sign language interpreters. So if we complain that we are excluded, they said this is an order from above, we cannot attend to this. What is above? US president, United Nations, each country that offers public speech, they usually, have a caption that provides services for sign language interpretation. So we deserve full access to information.
Full access.
So with this, we shouldn't be left behind. All these government websites that show that, deliver information in video captions, actually, these are barriers for them. We want to see how these barriers can be removed so that these laws can be implemented. The Disability Act is there, and it gives full, recognition and explanation about the right of all persons with disabilities. UNCPRD, the African Disability Protocol are there, but the challenge we have in Nigeria is weak implementation, and this is the gap. And people that are in position of power are not ready to listen. We are ready to support. We are not ready to listen. So that willingness is not there. So therefore, all those websites that actually have videos and there are no interpreters engaged are barriers for the deaf. So this is not fair for us as citizens of Nigeria. We do not have any home Nigeria, but to my surprise and to my shock, you will see that when it is time for election campaign, each politician, each government organization that works in line with election will bring sign language interpreters because they want to win our votes. After election, any other important event, you wouldn't see a sign language interpreter again. You see the recent APC National Convention, when the president is speaking, interpreter was there. But when it comes to state issues, you wouldn't find an interpreter there. So is it because they want to have our vote and that is all? So political participation, social events, you need to make it more accessible, more inclusive for persons who are deaf to have a better understanding of what is going on and to flow. But it is just ridiculous that people bring interpreters during political campaign. After that, and we are discarded. So this should be corrected and be addressed because we are going towards 2027, and our votes matters, not spaghettis, please. Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's an inclusive clap for Mr. Haruna. Amazing contributions, very, very insightful. So I'll direct the same question to Mr. Stanley. I would like to hear about the barriers, this time around specific to people who are blind. What are these barriers that you face when navigating current Nigerian government websites?
Thank you. No comment. To be honest,
Yes.
the government websites are not accessible to those of us that are visually impaired. And some of these websites, since they were built,
Yes.
they have not worked on them,
Mm.
even to restructure the websites. So they've not done anything like that.
Mm.
Let me share one example. About 2 years ago,
Yes,
there
sir.
was this exercise from the Office of the Head of Service of the Federation, a verification exercise for federal civil servants. And we were asked to fill a form online via the website at the Office of the Head of Service. But I couldn't access it.
Mm.
Tried to do that. I couldn't access it on my own until I switched off the screen reader on my device. Then you see, I have to get another person
Mm.
enable me fill that form. And it's not supposed to be so. Some of my personal information, the person have to know them because I have to provide the information to them.
Privacy.
Let me give you an example of what happened. The column where they ask of age,
Yes.
what I told the person my age, and after the filling of the form, the young man said, Bros, you don't owe though. So, the thing is that most of their websites are not accessible to our members, and they need to restructure those websites in a way that they can be accessible to our members. Another challenge, I have been saying this in different forums, that the government should subsidize these devices that we use. Some due to they don't have much money, they go for some devices that not even access, cannot even connect to some of these websites, talk less of accessing them. So I think the government should do something. In other countries that have traveled, government provide devices to members of the blind community. So I don't know why the government cannot do the same thing here. So it's a very big challenge that most time when we want to access some of these websites, we have to put off our screen readers and get someone that will read for us. So if not that I have someone who is a colleague, who is educated, what about someone who don't have an access to someone who is educated and will be reading nonsense to him? But this is website Adibin, it is accessible. The person will use his device and access it, fill the form, and submit. So I want to use this opportunity to call on the government. Let the government work on their website. In fact, most of them, since they were, just like I've said before, since they were built,
Yes.
no maintenance, no any updates that has taken place on some of these websites. Then some of them, the websites, sometimes even if there is a video
Yeah.
uploaded on them, they are not audible for our people to even listen to. Some are not audible. And that shows that they don't even have experts that manage these websites. So I will also suggest that the head of service office or the government should organize a training in collaboration with John Appic, a training for all the officers that are managing these government websites on the need to make these websites inclusive for our people to access it just like every other citizen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Stanley. Such a robust contribution on the barriers that are specific to people who are blind. And from your contribution and the contribution of Mr. Haruna, I can see that there's a problem with the digital accessibility standard because if digital
A serious one. Yes, a serious problem.
Yes, because if there are digital accessibility standards and we follow those standards, we won't be having all of this problem. And so the next two questions I'll be asking Mr. Stanley, I'll be asking you these questions because it borders on digital accessibility standards. I have one key question for you. It has to do with the W3C guideline implementation. I believe that there's a role that the private sector can play because we are already seeing that it looks like the government has so much on its hands and it will really need the assistance of private sector. So can you please tell us what role the private sector can play in supporting this W3C guideline implementation?
Well, Elizabeth, we are in a society where everybody believes that anything that has to do with the welfare of citizens should be government.
Mm, yes.
And most time when we approach the private sectors, they will push us back to the government. Either they say you now have a commission or you have a ministry of humanitarian. But some will make promises and they will not fulfill promises they've made.
Mm,
Some seem not to have interest at all. Let me give you one example.
okay, sir.
Few years ago, the Nigerian Association of the Blind, we got a grant
Mm,
to implement inclusive banking because we found out that persons with disability face a lot of challenges in the banking sector. The location of the ATMs are not accessible, their apps and the what have you. And we got this grant, organized a training,
mm,
invite all the banks at Lagos, paid for all, prepared tea break, and even lunch. Believe me, at the end of the day, it was only Access Bank and two microfinance banks that attended. And we repeated it for the second time. The same thing happened. So most time, the challenge has been lack of will by these people at the private sector.
mm,
But we are engaging some of them. Some of them have made one or two commitments, but it is not enough. It is not enough. So some of our members are into this website designing,
okay.
and they are even engaging some private sectors and even the government offices. I know it's a guy who, as I speak to you right now, he is working on two government establishments in Delta states on their website. So the private sector like I said, they always push us back to the government whenever we want to engage them or whenever we want to partner with them. Um, yes, we have a commission. That we have a commission, we have a ministry of humanitarian does not mean that the private sectors should not do the needful. In other countries that I have visited, in fact, what the disabled people are enjoying there, over 40 or 45% of it is from the private sector. But here, it's not like that. They always advise us to go to the government, and the government doesn't have the enough budget provision to take care of all these things, um, for all these needs uh, that persons with disability face on daily basis.
Okay, thank you so much. You have really, really said quite a lot, and it's really saddening to hear that most times when we go to the private sector, it pushes us back to the government, and this falls as a very huge responsibility on the government because I believe that the government needs to lead by example. This is just what it shows. The government needs to lead by example, and we'll still keep pushing until the private
Okay,
sector need to
we'll get
see.
to that. We'll get to the
Yes,
destination, to the
yes,
promised land by the grace
yes,
of
I believe that when the private sector begin to see the benefits of this, they will be more supportive of pushing the agenda of persons with disabilities in Nigeria. So I have one last question for you, sir, still, Mr. Stanley, before I move over to Mr. Haruna. It still has to do with this digital accessibility standard. So I just wanted to ask a very straightforward question. Is there a digital accessibility standard in Nigeria, sir? Maybe I should ask Mr. Haruna this question. So hold on, Mr. Stanley. Mr. Haruna, is there a digital accessibility standard in Nigeria?
I'm not sure. We do not have such. Nigeria. What we have right now is accessibility standard regulation, which captured very little on digital aspects. But still, this is not enough.
It's not.
And that is why I want us to as well think of how we can involve NITDA, Nigerian Information and Technology Agency. They are responsible for the design and approval of license of websites. So if NITDA can comply with the WC accessibility standard for persons with disabilities and blind, I think we will meet some kind of implementation in that area. So we need to create more advocacy, more awareness to NITDA, NITDA, because they are responsible for designing a website for agents, government agents, and approval and licensing, and responsible for renewal of websites. So they are the people that build government domain websites. So this calls for serious advocacy, for a serious attention on NITDA. So if I remember, they often organize technical training for persons with disabilities, inviting few people to donate very less quality laptops and go. That is captured in their budget, but not, addressing our needs. So they need to see how best they can capture very big budgets that truly, emphasize on quality assurance, quality technology for persons with disabilities. We say we can have accessibility audits for their website on digital inclusion. They should have better budget and they should know what is needed in that area. Our data is here.
Yes.
Recently, Jonapid has worked on this data for persons with disabilities. All the presidents of the commission were there. So data is rich. We need our data. They need our data. We have the data. We have the number of persons. We have the number of deaf, blind, physically disabled, and all the classes of persons with disabilities. We mostly use those websites. So how best they can allocate a handsome budget to create specific avenue for that budget appropriation, and how best they can build or create capacity training for tax officers who are most ICT heads offices in agencies in NDS, so as to make compliance with the government standard regulation. So it is something we can go about. But if we keep talking and talking and talking without implementation, it will be very difficult. We have to show some kind of practical, measure and approach to go, not just to leave them calling persons with disabilities for 3 days training and provide very low quality website and food. And we are above that level in 2026. We need access. We need digital access and inclusion. If persons who are blind are complaining and deaf are complaining, other persons who have albinism that have issues with sight are complaining. So this call for digital inclusion for deaf, blind, and other persons with disabilities. Sometimes you see in their budgets billions of naira allocated for specific, but it doesn't address issues that we need. So it is our responsibility as organizations of persons with disabilities to create more advocacy, awareness, let them see where and how and why. So this way, they as civil servants, as government agencies will know how to properly implement. But on design and implementation, we have to be there to do it together. That way our people will benefit, the community will be good, and the life will be improved, and nobody will be left behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Haruna.
Yeah,
Such an amazing response on
the
if
thing
there
I
is
said,
a digital accessibility
he,
standard. So it's still in line
yeah,
with what you mentioned. There is, let's say, rumor or for the grapevine saying that there is a plans to develop a digital accessibility standard. And if this is the truth, and if it is a very, very welcome development. And even if it is not, we believe that it is something worthy to focus on developing a digital accessibility standard. So coming back to Mr. Stanley, when this digital accessibility standard is developed, um, how do you think it can change the landscape for persons with disabilities in rural areas? I am very specific about the rural areas because most times when we are engaging, we don't really pay attention much to the rural areas. We only focus most times on the urban areas. So how can it change the landscape? This is very important because Mr. Haruna mentioned that there is a data, assumptive data for persons with disabilities in Nigeria. That data indicates that we have over 35 million persons with disabilities. 7.7 million people in that number are persons who are deaf. 7.2 million of that figure are persons who are blind. It means over 14 million people are at risk of being excluded. So, how can this proposed digital accessibility standard change the landscape for persons with disabilities in general, not just only limited to persons who are deaf?
very much, Elizabeth. I want to say this before answering your last question or your question. The government agency that Mr. Haruna talked about that provides training for persons with disability and most time issued um, poor quality laptops to them. I think if they used the money in procurement, the money they use in getting those laptops and use it to approve their websites and other government websites. I think we would like that than giving our people laptops that sometimes some doesn't use their own up to 3, 4, 5 months. Um, if we have this regulation, uh, so if we have it, it will go a long way to ensure that we have an inclusive uh, website and that will enable our people to access it, both those in the urban area and those in the rural area. When we get this, the disability organizations will also put our heads together to ensure the enforcement of this, that most broadcasting organizations comply to the standard. You understand? But you know, just like
Mr. Stanley, are you still there? So while we wait for Mr. Stanley to return, we'll say
can you hear me? Just like I'm saying, when we have this standard, um, for the fact that we have been excluded in enjoying accessible digital communication in this country, um, organizations of persons with disability will ensure for the full implementation. Although, just like my colleague said, my friend Haruna, that most time not designing policies is the problem, but the implementation. But let's do this and ensure that every organization meets the standard, the best standard that will enable us enjoy access to various websites. Uh, I think I think it will be fine.
thank you so much, sir. Sir, in one sentence, Mr. Haruna, would you like to add to that topic how the digital accessibility standard, the proposed one, how it can improve the landscape for persons with disabilities? Just one line. Would you like to add to that?
All right. I would say that digital inclusion is human rights. It's a human right issue for the deaf community. Access to communication is access to opportunities, access to dignity, access to participation. So if we truly want an inclusive society, then sign language must be fully recognized and integrated in our society and make it a digital access easy for us for our linguistic rights. And that is the point. And that is the point we're talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Haruna. So grateful for your contribution. And Mr. Stanley, we appreciate your amazing contribution. So moving to Mr. Haruna again, we are back to you. So like what we were saying before, I mentioned something about ways that because Mr. Stanley had earlier mentioned that organizations of persons with disabilities, example like JUNAPI, need to be consulted, right from the very start, the co-creation stage, or let's say the initial stage of the design of all these accessibility standards. So still bringing it back to Mr. Haruna, I would like to get a more specific response, like the ways, yes, we always say include organizations with persons with disabilities, organizations of persons with disabilities. However, I believe that there is an effective way to do that, because most times they will now invite these OPDs or these OFPDs. They will be in the room just to tick a box, but they are not truly carried along. So how do we effectively ensure that organizations of persons with disabilities are effectively consulted, not just to tick the box, but that they are effectively carried along? So I would like a more specific response. So beyond just including the OPDs, let it be effective. So I want to find out those effective ways that we can go about this.
I would say, reflecting from the policy issues itself, policy frameworks, which often led to the designs. When designs are done without persons with disabilities, that design, that policies are less useful, because it wouldn't be successful. And that is why UNCRPD emphasized on nothing about us without us. Therefore, at the design level, include persons with disabilities in decision making. Let our voice be heard. Let what we say be there on how and what should be done, captured in that. And then the drive, finally, implementation will be very easy to go about. But when you just decide the design for us and say you come to show that this is what we want, this is what we have, without fully including us in design. So do you have any evidence to show what truly inclusion is? I hope you get me. And not only NBC, we must also try to engage Nigerian Communication Commission, NCC. When we are talking about private sectors, there are relevant, organizations. NCC had to enforce most of those private sectors that has to do with telecommunication companies. For example, MTN will send a message to you that you have free call, for example, and this is free call for you. Me as a deaf, how do I take advantage of that free call, for example, for instance? So what of those, what use are those free calls for me? When we often use data to communicate through video, sign language, video interpretation, visible, because visual communication is our own sector, and that's most important for us. So if NCC will truly use proper data that we have been using in place to identify persons who are deaf, to say if a person, for example, is a person with disability or specifically deaf or hard of hearing or deaf blind, please, so this call use this code to claim your free access to call or data, for example. And that is a very important thing. So, and that way we wouldn't be excluded from enjoying those services, because we actually pay for credits and pay for data. They are not free. And again, yeah, NCC will make those private telecommunication companies, comply with international best practices. Let me give you an example. A friend who is deaf has an assistive technology company in India. We met sometime in Kenya during the World Federation of the Deaf Conference, and he said, Nigeria is rich. Nigeria is very rich also. I said, what do you mean? They said most of their disability persons with disability company that produces assistive technology in India have been funded by private sectors from Nigeria. Imagine. At home, here, the same private company will tell you they do not have provision for you, that they do not, they are not ready, or they don't. Well, at most they provide wheelchair or or cane or hearing aids and as empowerment, and those things are very useless. So these kind of things, we need to try to see what we do for paradigm shift from charity-based rights to full participation in economy and in social activity. Perhaps we can say their own corporate social responsibility sector should be reserved for persons with disabilities in the area of funding, so that they can empower persons with disabilities in business, in farming, in several areas that is proper empowerment. But giving us, wheelchair or cane or pack of sugar or spaghetti or what do you call it? Hearing aid is very useful. So my own is not just on MBC, but we also need to engage NCC.
Yes.
Especially from the Department of Customer Service in NCC, to see how best we can really make this accessibility standard regulation, digital regulation, work in our community, benefit our community based on our data. We have many users that are MTN users, Glo users, Airtel users, you can name it. But of what benefits are they for persons with disabilities? If you go to America, the US, they often use video relay services. So those companies usually provide funds in their own countries for persons with disabilities, called funds. And the government also gives allocation for that. So you see persons with disabilities in their country are better off, not depending on government, but they are better off because there are allocations from private sector and even the government. So it's left for us to create more awareness, create more advocacy to government agency. So if government truly wants to comply with the commitments to enforce those laws and policies, then something positive will happen. So try to shift from saying, we are Nigerians, No. We are Nigerians, we are good people, we are intelligent people, we are capable people to work, and we need to make a change. But willingness, commitment matter on the side of the government. So if government will comply to the commitment and to work and push towards full implementation of this policies, believe me, we wouldn't find any single Nigerian with disability on the street begging for food or begging for money. So, as an advocates, we will continue and we'll get there by the grace of God. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. If I picked anything, like I picked a lot of things, but the summary of everything is, when you invite these OPDs, what you have said is, they should be heard. Persons with disabilities will be heard. And how do we know that you have heard us? Is when we begin to see manifestations of most of the things that we co-created together. The last question I'll be asking you, and before we leave, is now, because the 2027 general elections is just close by. Of course, like you mentioned, APC Congress just happened just, I think, a few weeks ago. And then you had already said a little about the 2027 elections on how sign language interpreter was available at the Congress, but afterwards it becomes non-existent. And just like you finished narrating, you said the government needs to be more committed and willing, and be willing to be willing when it comes to concerns that have to do with persons with disabilities. So still moving to this 2027 question. Now, how do we track the impact of accessible information on political participation of persons with disabilities? This is streaming from what you mentioned about the APC Congress that just took place. I'm sure that there were a meaningful, how do I say it, meaningful outcomes from the involvement of a sign language interpreter. So,
Thank you. You can hear me, right?
yes, I can hear you.
Good. About 3 weeks ago, when I think about a month ago, when I returned back from Abuja, I called a meeting of all state chairmen of our organization, and for us to brainstorm on the best way our people can participate in this forthcoming election. Because one thing about Nigerian politics, if you didn't participate, they will not recognize you when the food is done. So, but when you participate, when the food is done, they will give you your own portion. You understand? So, the position I'm holding today in my state is because of my participation. My governor, I've been following him since 2015. I worked for him despite being in an opposition then. I worked for him in 2019, and in 2023, I also mobilized persons with disability for him. And the position I'm occupying today at the state is a reward of my hard working. So I shared this testimony with our state chairman and tell them that our people should even go for elective position. They should go for elective position. It's possible. And today, I'm proud to tell you that our people are participating in political activities in different states. In fact, in Niger State, we have even a candidate for House of Rep, our national PRO. We have a candidate for House of Rep. So he's battling it with them there. And we are also advising and encouraging him to push on. And so in other states, even some are world leaders. At least we have someone who is a world leader in Anambra State. So we are encouraging our people to participate in the political activities. We should not just fold our hands and after that we'll expect them to, give us positions in the government that will be formed. So our people are participating, and we even our social media handler even did a write-up which he has been sharing to encourage our people in all the NAB WhatsApp platforms to ensure that our people registered, even did their registration and even participate in the electoral process. So we are doing that, and I believe with what we have started, one day we will see a member of our organization in the House of Rep or State House of Assembly or even at the Senate. So we are pushing, we are encouraging them, but politics in Nigeria has to do with money. And most time, for those of them who are willing to contest for elections, they don't even have money to, secure the tickets, the primaries, get through the primaries because they don't have money to throw around. Some of the political parties said they've made nomination forms free of charge for our people. but not making the nomination forms, that is the problem. The problem is the fund for them to, execute the primaries process, which many of them don't have. And that's why the bill that was, presented some time ago, where they talk about having a one senatorial representative and about three House of Rep representatives from each geopolitical zones. If that bill can be pushed, I think it will be fine so that we will have representatives at the Senate and even at the House of Rep. So that whenever there are issues that has to do with persons with disability, we'll have those that will push it for us. But there, those that are doing that in a charity approach for us to feel happy. And after introducing it, we will not hear anything again. For instance, a member of House of Rep we met some time ago pushed for increase in the retirement age of persons with disability. And we felt very happy. We clapped for him. Some of us called him on phone and prayed for him. And after that, we didn't hear anything again. But had it been we have our members there at the House of Rep or the Senate, they will keep pushing because he who wears the shoe knows where it pinches. So not all these people that does things for us, uh, having this charity approach in mind, that let's just do this for them, let them feel happy. No, these are not things that we want this time around. We want to participate. We are citizens of this country. They should make an enabling environment for us to participate in the electoral process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stanley. Thank you so much. So still directing that question because it's our last question to Mr. Haruna. Can you please just tell us, okay, let me just put it this way. What happens when information is accessible to persons with disabilities? This is in line with the upcoming 2027 general elections. What impact do you think it will have on the deaf community?
All right. Mostly in the political processes, like APC convention that just happened, like the PDP convention and other political party conventions. We see sign language interpreters and properly captured on camera to make it more accessible and more visible, marketing their party to persons with the community of persons with disabilities. That is a good idea and should be commended. These parties should be commended. But when it comes to full participation of persons who are deaf in this aspect, we still have challenges that exist. I would like to share a bitter experience. One of our own, former governor of Nasarawa State, His Excellency Senator Omaru Tanko Almakura, he is hard of hearing, and he's truly doing much and very much identified. He's a member of deaf community and has identified himself as such. He has expressed his willingness to contest for the chairmanship position of the APC. But do you know that the discrimination or the barrier he got at that time that even made him lost that position is they call him he is deaf, and that is the label they gave him, that he is deaf. So, and that is just the excuse they used to exclude him and marginalize him. And again, like my friend has said, money in politics is imperative now in Nigeria. Like my friend has said, Nigerian politics is a very, very dirty game. Those who are highly blessed are those who, win elections. When you give a million naira or 100 million per person for delegates, somebody will come and give billions of naira. So what use and this kind of money. I'm happy that there is discount at some level for persons with disabilities. At State Assembly, House of Assembly, Senate, and there are discounts, I know, both in APC and PDP and PRP and other political parties, but yet full participation is what is most important. So we feel that this kind of things cannot work. There is affirmative action for persons with disabilities in parliamentary, which cannot work as well. So we see how we should have low-hanging fruits, benefit from low-hanging fruits by drafting a manifesto of that person. From the manifesto of these persons, we then maybe design a commitment form. As at our level now, we plan to meet the Minister of Information anytime from this and next week. He will help us pass a commitment form to the President of Nigeria. What is your commitment for deaf community in the area of accessing information and persons with disabilities in Nigeria? We want to know the President's commitment come 2027 election. We are 35.5 million persons with disabilities in Nigeria, and our vote counts. So this is a message for the President. But at different grassroots level, local government and state and zones, we want to make sure that our state chapters also have the same forms. If a member is contesting for House of Reps, or Senate, or local government chairman, even states come to campaign, give him the form. This is our commitment form. You commit this and sign. And then we have our people sign as well. We hold you accountable on that. Yet, we know we still have gap there. Our people need to participate, and our people actually good in making promises and not implementing anything. I'm very sorry to say, but yet we are Nigerians. We have to find a way to fight that. So this is approach we are trying to make right now. So this is not a fight for ourselves alone. No, it is a fight, a collective fight, a collective effort for organizations of persons with disabilities, the civil society, CSOs, to see that we make strong affirmative action for persons with disabilities for political participation. Just like we have the same in Kenya, in Uganda, in Rwanda, and other countries, especially chairs or seats that are reserved for persons with disabilities, so that they make our lives easy. So if we truly mean well for our people, we need to have these kind of things in Nigeria. Nigeria is a very big country that is 3 times or 4 times countries like Kenya or Uganda. But yet, we can start somewhere. We really need to start somewhere, especially now that implementation of the Disability Act is. But we still have gaps and weaknesses there. But like my friend Stanley said, we must identify those political parties that and make a reward system for those political parties who make it accessible for persons with disabilities. So we are been saying that we need to keep professionalism as an NGO in line with Kama Act of CSC, but yet how possible? Politicians will approach you with their wants, and sometimes we have to whether support them to expect a reward system or lost opportunities. But man is a political animal. So I am a member of a political party, yet I have to be neutral at times, because not because for myself, but because for the community. And our plan is to see how we also can make APC as a party, PDP as a party, ADC as a party, all parties, make them more inclusive by signing those commitment forms from 2027 election. Yes, sir. There are gaps and challenges, but these are something that we have to continue to fight. But little by little we get there. Right now, even not right now, but in the near future, and I believe in Nigeria, like it says, our motherland will serve, and will continue to serve under rain, under sunshine. Thank you very much.
Yes, another thing, I think, Elizabeth, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
I think I have discussed this with our president, the Jonathan president, and he said it's a good idea. By the time we'll have the presidential candidates emerged from the political parties, we should invite them for a forum like this, where we will look at their manifestos and ask them questions and ensure that they make commitments. Because most time I find out these politicians, when they scale through election, they give our people SSA, a positions that there is no any a budget attached to it. And most times the people occupying this position, people sees them as enemies, as if they don't want to help them, but not knowing that there is no there is no budget provision for the office. Even in some states, they don't even have office space, talk less of letter-headed paper to even write, even memos. So I think there will be need for us to engage them at the national, both the presidential candidates and even at the state level, engage the governorship aspirants, so that they will make the commitment. They will sign whatever they have promised to do for persons with disability if they scale through the election process. I think it will be fine if Jonah Pitt can, champion this with the support from organizations of persons with disability. Thank you. That's what I want to add here.
To add again.
Sir?
To add to this, Mr. Haruna wants to.
Yes, it's okay.
I can remember in 2015 election campaign, this kind of fora were created with BBC, including BBC, NTA, Channels TV, AIT, and others. They came together with the President Buhari and his vice, Professor Osibanjo. It was a platform where persons with disabilities challenged them and asked them what is their plan for persons with disabilities. And that was during their election campaigns. And they promised and that they will pass the Disability Act and they will implement it fully. Yet after they won, we had to push. But finally, they implement due to our, Aluta activity and advocacy. But we need to continue with this because, as my friend said, it is helpful. We will see that they comply with international best practice that has to do with disability development. And this is a global issue. We cannot leave this out. Wherever they are, if they need our votes, welcome. We will give them the podium, we'll ask them questions based on our inclusive needs and our commitments. So if you make it fair, when you win, we hold you accountable for that. True, there is a lot that OPD and JUNAP need to partner with the Forum for Political Parties. There is a Forum for Political Parties and other media houses that often organize those kind of discussions to see how best we can succeed on this kind of efforts and discussions. So that presidential aspirants and all political parties will commit to what we want. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Haruna. Thank you so much, Mr. Stanley, both the national president for the Nigerian National Association of the Deaf and the national president for the blind. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for the insights you have shared. They have helped us to better understand the commitment made by the Nigerian government and the topic on digital inclusion and communication. For me, some keywords, some key themes kept repeating themselves throughout this call, and they are consultation. It means for us to achieve digital inclusion and communication for persons with disabilities, we need to consult with persons with disabilities and organizations of persons with disabilities. And then another key word kept repeating itself. It borders on commitment. Yes, so commitment is something that is very important. Willingness from the government, and then just like Mr. Stanley spoke about the private sector. Private sector needs to see the need for supporting persons with disabilities. It was actually funny to learn that outside the country, these private organizations are supportive of persons with disabilities. Well, right in here, it's a different case. And I think that we need to do something about that. But that thing that kept repeating itself here, which is very important for me, is implementation. Because just like people always mention, Nigeria has beautiful legislations, we have beautiful laws, but it is not being implemented. And for me, I think it's lack of will or no willingness, because you are apportioning the same the energy you give to other sectors. You're not giving the same energy to concerns that have to do with persons with disabilities. And another thing that I believe we can do from our own end and as persons with disabilities is to demand accountability. And just like Mr. Stanley mentioned, Mr. Stanley spoke about, still speaking about the upcoming elections. We are going to demand the manifestos, right? We're going to have a copy of that. Then we're going to ensure that, okay, when they are now running in government, you are going to look at that manifesto and start ticking and ensuring that, okay, what this person has said, they're actually doing it. So it is our duty to demand accountability. We must also keep advocating, and we must keep raising awareness about the concerns of persons with disabilities. Thank you, Mr. Haruna, for your recommendations on involving NCC. Yes, that is a very, very welcome development, because it's not just limited to NBC. There are other organizations saddled with the responsibility for digital inclusion and communication in Nigeria. If there are any last words, I would say is that all hands must be on deck. Yes, the government needs to lead the charge on this, but the private sector and every other relevant stakeholder must also have their hands on deck. I don't know if you have any final words, Mr. Onyebuchi and Mr. Haruna, and if you are open to that.
I want to say that I want to call on the disability organization and persons with disability in Nigeria that we should not relent. We'll continue pushing for an inclusive society. By the grace of God, one day we'll get there.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stanley. Mr. Haruna, do you have any final words for us?
As I have said earlier, this is a collective responsibility and this is a collective struggle. So we will not sit from afar, fold our arms and stand day and night, work together to see the success of our best Nigeria can be. To make sure that fully digital access and communication and other basic needs of persons are met. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Haruna. This is just the maiden edition of this podcast series. We're going to have other podcast series where we touch on other themes that were developed from the action plan in line with the GDS commitments that were made in 2025. That's last year in Berlin. Remember to share, to comment, to like, and to contribute to the subject matter. Till I see you some other time, this will be good bye for me, and thank you to everyone who was a part of that. I look
Thank you,
forward
Thank
to
Bella.
you for having